Hi, I'm here with Mike Kaput. He's the Chief Marketing Officer of the Marketing AI Institute. Mike, thanks for joining the conversation today. Firstly, for those who aren't familiar with the wonderful work that your organization does, what should they know about it?
So at Marketing AI Institute, we're actually a consulting, media, and education company, and we also run an event. So we are marketers that grew out of a marketing agency, and at that agency, we started using artificial intelligence to help our clients increase marketing performance and productivity. And in the process found there were a lot of other marketers just like us that were trying to understand this new and really interesting technology. So today we do everything from run a marketing conference called the Marketing AI Conference that takes place annually in Cleveland, Ohio, where we're based. We have a flagship course called Piloting AI for Marketers that is an on-demand online course. And we do a range of other activities to educate the market on how AI can actually help them in real world use cases supercharge their careers and their companies.
Amazing. So, as someone who spends day in, day out talking to marketing leaders about the world of marketing AI, how do you guide marketers in evaluating AI tools in their day to day work?
This is really the $1 million question because evaluating the technology is not always easy. So, to start, it always comes back to use cases. So, no matter how familiar or not familiar you are with artificial intelligence, you really want to start out by looking at everything you do in a day that takes up a bunch of time, money, energy, what have you, and start asking yourself, how could this be done smarter with artificial intelligence? So, from our perspective, there's kind of three big questions we would start counseling people to ask about what they do in a day. So, first, is it data driven? So, asking yourself, is the thing I'm doing requiring me to analyze any type of data? Because AI excels at and is fueled by large data sets. Or should you be using data to actually do the task and maybe you're not being as scientific as you could be? Question two would be, is it repetitive? So are there a common set of steps, common set of tasks I do to accomplish any given project? Anything that's repeatable is typically a pretty good use case as well for artificial intelligence. And last but not least would be, is it predictive? So if you really think about the word predictive, like making a prediction about any given outcome, that encompasses a lot of what we do as marketers. We're always trying to say, okay, like, will this subject line result in a higher open rate, higher click-through rate, what have you, better engagement? Will this blog post topic resonate better? We're always trying to make predictions about what the outcomes will be of the marketing assets we're creating. So if you can answer yes to one of those three questions, you probably have a pretty decent use case for AI in your marketing.
Okay. Yeah, so you talked a little bit about predictions, and it makes me think a bit about like what can you actually get AI to do for you? Getting it to do what you need it to do is one thing, for example, improving your prompts and your inputs, but assessing the outputs is a whole other thing. So, how can marketers today ensure that the work that they're doing is with AI is actually good?
There's a couple ways to do this. First, there are a lot of questions you want to be asking vendors of AI technology up front before you even buy it. You want to understand as best as you can where the data is coming from, how the machine is making decisions, and what implications that has for your business. Now, that sounds pretty straightforward, but it's really messy and murky, and no one has figured this out totally yet. I would say you do need to be asking up front, where is this getting data? What possible biases are there to the machine producing the outputs it produces? We've seen 100 different stories already of outputs from like a chat GPT that are just sound really confident, but are totally wrong, right? Or reinforce problematic, approaches or biases to certain pieces of information. So the upfront piece is really important. After you have the technology, a lot of businesses mistakenly think that you need to remove humans from the loop, that AI can do everything. Humans always need to be in the loop. It is absolutely critical. You have to have your domain experts, your marketers that know their area of expertise in marketing, overseeing the machines.
Okay. Right. So, what do you see marketers doing with AI today that's actually helping them save time and get better results?
So I will answer this kind of in my own area of expertise. I do 100 different types of marketing to kind of grow our traffic, leads, and sales at the Institute, but really content marketing is my big area of expertise. And I would say there's 100 different ways that you can actually use AI to 10x your output. So I would say some of the big use cases in content marketing be things like you can use AI today to develop editorial calendars and content strategies. You can literally use it to research, create, and edit marketing copy, blog posts, website content, ebooks, white papers, and a ton of other different types of collateral. You can use it to do content recommendations, get very personalized with your messaging and your copy. You can use it to predict actually which content might perform best on which topics before you even launch it. You can use it to do everything from testing and optimizing different formats, content lengths, headline structure, composition, length, etc. So anything related to actually creating and scaling content promotion can be done better and smarter with AI.
Okay. So when you describe it, and Unbounce has the same perspective where AI is that supporting tool to the marketing that you're already doing, right? So
Yep.
it can write a blog post for you from beginning to end. It can write your ad copy, but without the human and the human assessment of those outputs, or having it really integrated in your day-to-day work as a content marketer, you're kind of saying it's not as valuable unless you're sort of pairing that marketer with the machine.
Yeah, there's no scenario where today you should be removing the marketer from that process, because even if an output from any writing tool or any AI generative AI tool looks amazing or sounds amazing, someone else with the same tool can do the same thing. There's no competitive advantage to doing this generic content, at least in the example of content marketing, with these AI tools. It's augmenting rock star writers and content creators with these tools to help them be 10x more productive, 10x more impactful using these tools. Because at least today, the AI is not coming up with these unique perspectives and points of view that human beings inherently, at least the best in the field, have cultivated over decades of experience.
Okay, very well put. So, I mean, that kind of leads me to my next question, where what advantages do marketers adopting AI have over marketers who are not?
Yeah, so I mean, and I won't kind of keep harping on the content example, but just as one example, there's actually two big areas. There's first doing what you're already doing much more productively. So if I'm a marketer who is doing any type of content program or campaign, all the stuff I do today in a day can be done 10x more productively by augmenting myself with AI. So from a pure productivity play, even if I'm still injecting all of my, human creativity and ingenuity into the content, I can still use AI to distribute that far better, promote it far better, be more predictive with it, and get more done with it. A marketer not using AI just can't compete. We like to kind of say at the Institute, AI isn't going to replace you, but a marketer using AI probably will replace marketers who don't. So from a pure productivity play, to me, there's no question. You could follow the exact same content strategy, the exact same activities that you do today, and just do it much, much more efficiently with artificial intelligence. But then I think there's this kind of medium to longer term play, which is AI is going to reinvent how we do a lot of our marketing jobs, how companies' business models work. And the marketers that start understanding it now, start experimenting with it to do what they do today better, are actually going to find brand new ways of working that are going to completely upend business as usual. So I think in the short term, there's no question you have to be using it to increase your impact, increase your efficiency. But longer term, it will completely upend everything we think about the certain jobs that we have and the tasks that we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point of view where, if you're just starting to explore this today and you're starting to maybe find bits and pieces of what AI has to offer, bring that into your own work and start to experiment with a productivity shift or the output shift, starting there and starting somewhere, knowing that the technology is going to evolve over time and being in front of that instead of behind it seems to be a really important point of view for the marketer today. What's your take on, we have big business like Google and Microsoft putting a lot of money into AI and having it part of their regular workflow of their products that, organizations, individuals, and end users are by the millions are leveraging every day. And then you see, SaaS tools like Canva and Notion bringing AI into their commonplace workflow as well. So there's exposure like never before, and it's still very early days, but these are signals that this is something that is here to truly and long-term augment our workflows and how we work. I think the marketer is feeling that the most of the workforce right now because it's so accessible to them. But from your perspective, what can a marketer do today to make sure that they don't get left behind?
It's especially in the last few months, it's been a real concern. This stuff has always been in one way somewhat scary, and to me as well. I mean, sometimes there are developments that I'm like, oh my gosh, like that really changed the game. And there's a lot of commentary around it. So I would say it's natural to feel some fear around it. But I would also say the first thing to remember is that it might not seem like it, but you're not behind. Like, no matter where you are in your marketing career today, you are not behind on this stuff because even the people building it have been surprised over the last few years about how fast aspects of the field have progressed. Now, that's not an excuse to sit on your hands and not do anything about it. You do need to move pretty fast, I would say. Any marketer does, but you're not behind. You cannot be intimidated and say, I missed the boat. You didn't. It's here. It is here. The boat is here, but you absolutely are not further behind than your average peer. And frankly, even the smartest people can't predict what's next. So what you need to do is start using this technology. If you have not already, you have no excuse to not, after this, like go look at ChatGPT, go read a few things. There's a surfeit of commentary out there about these tools, and to start thinking about, knowing what I know about after a few hours of research, what it can do. How would I use it in my own job? That's a really good place to start. You don't have to understand every single thing about the technical aspects of neural networks or machine learning or what have you. Like, that's great if you want to geek out about it. It's really helpful. You just need to know how to start using it in your own career and not be afraid to start experimenting with it, because it's become so easy to leverage these tools. And the advantage you have is being the domain expert in your own job, where you know what matters in your business, in your job. These tools are now easy enough for any of us to use, regardless of technical background. So your ability to connect the dots and figure out how these tools can change your career, your industry, your work, that's really, really valuable.
Yeah, amazing. So the perspective of all of these tools floating around, a lot of them are sort of coming out of the woodwork as technology and ability to develop on this technology becomes more accessible. Do you see a world where marketers will have to become more and more selective in the tools that they choose? When it comes down to basic tooling, we know the tools make AI accessible to the marketer, but in terms of selecting tools, when there are a number of use cases in front of you and you are that marketer that knows your domain and knows what you need to get done and where you could boost your productivity or output. But in terms of selecting a tool to get started with, where does a marketer start?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And honestly, I don't know if anyone has figured this out totally, because if you had asked me this question 6 months ago, I would have said, okay, here's a range of really interesting tools that are pretty affordable that you should use. And I would still stick to saying there's plenty of affordable tools out there you should try out. But many of those tools then became co-opted by things that the bigger companies are doing. So a Microsoft, a Google releasing things like a Chat GPT, incorporating those into their search engines, into, I mean, today Microsoft is incorporating any OpenAI GPT based tools into things like Microsoft Office, Teams, Bing. So what you're going to see is probably less emphasis on exactly which tools to use and figuring out which tools to use today that are incorporating AI powered features. So I would start with the technology you use today, and because that is the thing that has changed pretty dramatically in the last 6 months. Is that 6 months ago we were waiting for Microsoft, Meta, Facebook, or Meta, Google, whoever, to actually incorporate some of the stuff we were seeing outside of the big tech companies into their products. And that's beginning to start now. So I would say, look at what you use today. Does it incorporate AI features in some way? Start using those. Beyond that, again, it comes back to those use cases. Are there tools out there that are relatively affordable that you can start trying out today? And there are, that you can start solving for specific use cases that are extremely high value. And high value is key here. I mean, experimentation is great, but you really want to start with things that are just low hanging fruit. There's no reason to be doing any type of content marketing today without using at least one of these tools.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point of view. When we really like dig into the technology of what's behind I completely agree with you. Hey, if you're interested and you want to understand how the sausage is made, like go for it, dig into it as a marketer. You might be the type of marketer that wants to get technical. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Evaluating on a high level based on use case and output and desirable outcome seems to be enough for the marketer to get started. And then it sounds like, leveraging the tools that you already use and sometimes pay for, seeing what they have to offer, because more and more each day of the tools we're using and the platforms that we're leveraging are bringing AI into the fold. So I think that's really great advice. But for the technology, it's interesting when you pointed out, even the smartest and the brightest in this field are having a hard time predicting, the duration until this becomes very commonplace or as table stakes as part of our workflow, when that might happen, how long will it take to get there? When will AI for marketers go from here to here in terms of productivity and output and quality of output? I think it's interesting, maybe if you can chat a little about from your perspective, the underlying technology is quite similar in a lot of the tools that you'll be leveraging. But what makes certain tools for marketers different and at times, depending on your use case, more valuable is the data sets that are on top of it. So what's actually training that base ML model and that base machine learning brain? For Unbounce, it's our billions of conversion data points, so that when you're using our machine learning and our AI interface to increase the performance of your marketing campaigns, that is based and trained as a marketing, mind, right? Whereas some tools out there can be more general and more of a generalist. And, we look at it as more of a marketing specialist. Are you starting to see a bit more distinction on that front? And is that something that marketers should be honing in on when they're looking at tool selection or planning out how they might start bringing AI into their day-to-day work?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned what Unbounce is doing, because in my opinion, that's the only sustainable advantage moving forward, is what your organization is doing, is you're training artificial intelligence on artificial intelligence is a bunch of models that need data, right? So at the end of the day, the data you train it on determines your outputs. How you train it also matters dramatically. But what we're seeing in at least what we would call the generative AI space, all the stuff getting the attention today, the chat GPTs of the world, that's really interesting. Chat GPT is trained on a model that is opened up to a bunch of other companies. Now, there are a ton of companies out there that essentially are just using, this is just language AI at the moment. There's plenty of other types. A bunch of other companies are essentially just providing an interesting user experience that uses the same model that a chat GPT uses. So to your point, proprietary, unique, and extensive data is going to be the only competitive advantage moving forward. Because if you're doing anything related to language, the data set already exists. OpenAI is using it. So Unbounce, however, has been in business, 10 plus years at this point, easily, if not more. You guys have been a leader in the space. You have so much data that you're able to create an AI tool that other people cannot mimic, that they don't have the data set to train it on. So I think if you're a marketer, where the data came from to train the tools that you're using is truly important, because unless you have millions or billions of proprietary data points, you're probably looking at something that is using data that one of the bigger players already has. And like we said, that will be baked into increasingly the tools you're already using.
Yeah, wonderful. For the marketer who is watching this right now, what is one action item? So take away, close this video, go do this thing, get yourself immersed in AI. What is the one action item that you would suggest?
I'm going to answer in two parts.
Okay.
The first one is, if you have never tried out an AI tool, and this is all brand new to you, you absolutely go try ChatGPT or some variation of it. It's unfortunately used so much, it's often down. So try it a few times. Go play around with it. Go read about that. It is the buzzword of today. It's not the only AI tool out there, but it's the easiest one for a complete novice to start seeing, oh my gosh, here's what's possible. So go try that out. If you've used these tools before, and you're pretty familiar with this topic, I would say you need to really probably take a weekend and sit down. And I know it's not easy for everyone, but you need to start thinking about the longer term impact here, because we're all in our own individual careers and companies going to need AI roadmaps. We're going to need to start thinking about, even if it's one page of bullet points, how is my career, how is my company going to change because of this technology? You don't have to solve everything today, but you do need to start fundamentally rethinking how we do business as usual, because it is moving so fast. And I'm saying, as someone that spent 5+ years following this space, it's the fastest it's ever moved, and it is only becoming much more rapid. It is almost impossible sometimes for us to follow. So start thinking now, even if it's just a thought experiment for an hour, about how your work is going to change or could, given what is possible today and given what's coming down the line.
Amazing. Great advice. All right. So, Mike, thank you for joining today. This is really insightful. I hope it's insightful for the folks watching. So, marketers, happy exploring and welcome to the wonderful world of AI marketing. Thanks so much.